With Reagan's emphasis on smaller government, lower taxes, and less regulation, the U.S. economy experienced the greatest sustained period of economic growth in its history. As explained in my book, The End of Prosperity, co-authored by Arthur Laffer and Peter Tannous, the economic expansion under Reagan was resilient and powerful because economic policy was radically realigned to reward risk-taking and entrepreneurship and unleash the gale wind forces of technology, information, and the new digital age. While Ronald Reagan's ascendancy to the presidency was a great step forward for America, like so many things in life, his policies may have had an unintended negative consequence. The consequence I am referring to is that the success of Reaganomics may have caused Americans to become complacent about both prosperity and liberty. Even though the explosion of high technology kept the economy robust throughout the 1980s and 1990s, something else was going on quietly behind the scenes. The progressive movement was licking its wounds from the Reagan Revolution and retooling its weapon of choice, gradualism, to slowly move the country to the left once again. And Americans seemed too busy enjoying their prosperity to even take notice. As a result, over the past 2 decades, America has quietly moved away from freedom and free markets and, at an increasingly accelerating pace, toward socialism. This acceleration has been especially rapid under the Obama administration, so much so that our elected representatives seem perfectly comfortable with ignoring the Constitution. The power of gradualism is that each new generation comes to accept less and less freedom as a normal way of life, especially if children are fed false information by their teachers and the media. The once mainstream media has become so out of touch, refusing to even cover stories unfavorable to the current administration, that it is now referred to by many as the fringe media. As to schools, more and more parents are becoming outraged by the purposeful disinformation that is being taught in their children's classrooms. Thankfully, however, Americans are a resilient people who have a remarkable way of remembering, albeit sometimes waiting far longer than they should to do so, that liberty is an integral part of their heritage. For a majority of Americans, it's like riding a bicycle. Once experiencing the joys of liberty, they never forget it. It's in their blood. And never has this been so apparent than in the nationwide protest rallies that are becoming increasingly larger and bolder. The silent majority has been awakened by an out-of-control and corrupt government. As I watched the Tea Parties and town hall protests begin to unfold, it occurred to me that restoring the American dream is far more relevant today than when it was first published in 1979. As a result of our current economic chaos and the cancerous corruption that has spread throughout government at all levels, I believe people are much more prepared to hear the sometimes uncomfortable truths that Robert Ringer sets forth in this book. Much more so than in the late 1970s and early 1980s, readers can relate to his unwavering belief that government has no right to interfere in the lives of individuals who themselves do not violate the rights of others. They can relate to his view that government's only legitimate function is to protect the lives and property of its citizens, and that politicians are the employees of those citizens, not the other way around. The foreword to the original edition of Restoring the American Dream was written by the late William Simon, who served as Secretary of the Treasury under Presidents Nixon and Ford. Simon, a true patriot, once said, "There is only one social system that reflects the sovereignty of the individual, the free market or capitalist system." In his foreword, Simon wrote, "I am in total agreement with the author that our greatest hope for the future lies in teaching the facts to our younger generations. If every high school and college student were to read this book, America's presently beclouded future would begin to shine brightly once more. It is essential that the young people of this country learn to respect the right of every man and woman to seek his or her happiness with minimal interference from the government.